Hi everyone, Armoured Pants here, and I have another video for you in the American line. Following on from the T1 Heavy, we have the Tier 6 M6 Heavy tank. And the great news about this tank is that it is very similar to the T1 Heavy, so it's going to be an easy transition for you up to Tier 6. As always, we're going to have a look at the tech spec, and we will use blitzhanger.com, a great website for all blitzers. And if you're not using it, I think you should. And as I said, this is an easy step up from Tier 5. In actuality, historically, the M6 and the T1 Heavy came from the same concept tank, so they are effectively almost an identical tank, and the Tier 6 just has some upgrades like the gun, etc. So you're going to find it easy to play from the Tier 5. This is a good heavy tank. As we said, it's a variation of the T1 Heavy. About 40 of these tanks were produced historically but never saw battle during World War II. In terms of your provisions, I would run Coca-Cola, a case of Coca-Cola and improved fuel. That improves the performance and maximises the performance of the tank. Now there are 4 gun options. The only major difference is the top gun, which is 90mm. The others are all 75-76mm. So therefore, I would try to get the top gun first, and there's a reason for that. You will need it for the extra pen, because with that you get 160mm of pen with AP, 243mm with APCR, and HE gives you 45mm of pen. If you're using gun rammer, you get more, of course, with calibrated shells. Muzzle velocity is 1109 meters per second with supercharge, or 1386 meters per second with APCR. APCR rounds are faster, so bear in mind if you're firing at a fast moving target, maybe you want to switch up to APCR. You get 7.4 second reload with the gun if you use gun rammer, 8 seconds if you use calibrated shells, but calibrated shells give you a bit more pen. You need a 90mm gun for the extra pen, especially if you're up tiered and you're up against a Tiger P or something like that. You need that 90mm gun if you're going to pen. 0.314 dispersion with a refined gun. And as we know, dispersion is maximum deviation, the maximum you can deviate from hitting the target. So you need to lower dispersion. Gun depression is 10 degrees, 30 degrees of elevation, so therefore you have amazing gun alignment. Gun alignment is the ease with which you can align the barrel with the enemy tank, and it's excellent in this tank. The tank does 34 kilometers per hour forward speed, 10 in reverse, which is pretty decent for a heavy tank, but like the T1 Heavy before it, and here's the kicker, the power to rate ratio is great. Just look at those figures, they're off the chart. Traverse is also good, especially on hard terrain, which makes this tank very mobile, very agile, very maneuverable, and therefore a good brawler. Particularly if you get that armour in front, it's very, very effective. You see here, it is difficult to pen front on. You can also side scrape. If you look at the relative armour numbers here, as we look along the side, up in the top left, you'll see that they are very strong. You can side scrape in this tank, you'll get bounces off the front. The turret is very strong, it is an excellent side scraper. It has a spaced armour on the side of the tracks, and of course, looking at the front of it, looking at the shape of the tank, it is a great rammer. Don't forget that, because a ram is the round you never have to reload. It's always loaded and can always do a lot of damage, especially on a light or medium tank, and especially if you hit them side on or at the back. So this is a heavily armoured beast. When we turn around to show you the butt is like a baboon's ass. It's very vulnerable, and you can be easily penned there, so be very careful exposing your butt. It is the most vulnerable part of this, as we said, like a baboon's ass. It's out there for everyone to see and is very vulnerable, and of course is just waiting to be spanked. And there's always a red out there who's waiting to spank your baboon ass, so just be careful. But front on and to the sides, this tank is very heavily armoured, and we can see here, when you're top tier, you are a massive bully. Against your own tier, you're pretty strong, and even when up tiered, you're still going to be able to get some bounces. This tank doesn't struggle as much as many tanks when it is up tiered. In terms of tactics, this tank is, if you're top tier, great for front line with that armor profile. The gun is good. It's a great brawler. It's great for adapting positions where you can just expose even the turret, getting hull down, and you can see that in the gameplay. If you are top tiered, then I would suggest that you're a little bit more cautious, but just support your own heavies, Or you can even go with the medium sometimes, because with that power to rate ratio you can't keep up. Now let's have a look at some gameplay. Let's have a look at this armored beast in action and see just how it performs. Now we're going to have a look at Lost Temple. This is a game in which I'm not up tiered, so I'm lucky I'm top tier. That allows you to be much more aggressive, so I'm just going to head straight for A. And Lost Temple is a great map actually for this tank. And why? Because when you approach A in this tank, you can get to the temple structure in the middle, and you can use the shape of that temple structure here to really maximize the armor of this tank. So get up, just expose the top and the turret of this tank. We are very heavily armored. Utilize that gun, utilize that decent reload, and you are going to really have great success. So this map is, you know, very good for it, but any map where you can protect the lower vulnerable part and just show the top and the turret go hull down is great in this tank. See here the accuracy of the gun, small target, no problem, smash that stug into the vulnerable part at the top of his armor. Now this is interesting because you're going to see a brawl here between me and the other M6, and this is very interesting because this is exactly the same tank, so you're fighting your peer here, so you're going to see what I see, what it looks like when you're facing yourself. And you can see here where the vulnerable parts are. What you want to do is what I'm doing here, jigging, bobbing, weaving, and making it very difficult for him to find a target. I'm also trying to be a bit unpredictable, not always just moving side to side, moving side, then moving to the same side again, then back, dance of death. And you can see I make him bounce 2 shots, I pen with every shot, and I'm able to take him off the board. And that's very important because he is one of their strongest tanks. Fluff that shot, don't really know what I was doing there. I total mess out of it. Now, something here about gameplay, and it's about game awareness, right? So this is a supremacy, so therefore I move to cap. I'm giving up actually a strong position where I was. It was a position where I could dominate the game, but I know it's important in supremacy to cap when we don't have a base and we are a tank down, so therefore I cap. Now, battlefield awareness. Look at this Stug Hulk. I'm aware it's there, and I know that I can use that now as a mobile blocker, as a mobile barricade. I can just push into it, and I'm going to bounce shots, and I can do a lot of damage from here. So this is a simple tip, guys, you know, just to be aware of what happens in the game. So that Stug Hulk wasn't there at the start of the game, right? It's there now, so being aware of that and adapting my gameplay, I'm using that. And you can see here against these tier 5s, when I'm the top tier, they just cannot pen me. I'm only showing just the top of my turret. I'm moving, I'm making it really difficult. I'm able to clear off the Matilda Black Prince, and now we're left 2v2. So we've kind of rescued this game. We capped, cleared the tank, and now we're going to clear off the last M4 Sherman. Now, interestingly, up until this point, it kind of played pretty well, I thought, but I actually fluffed quite a few shots here at the end. And actually, when we look at the score and the analysis, we'll see that actually probably cost me the mastery game, because my allied BDR, who also had a great game, by the way, very good player, particularly as he was bottom tier in this game, he clears off both of these last tanks. And that's probably what stopped me getting the mastery badge, particularly this one here now. So I put a nice round into him. I'm going after him. Watch what happens here. He just tracks me just as I'm about to shoot him off, and I miss my shot. I fluff it. I only track him, and my ally takes him out. And probably that extra kill and the miss on the Stug resulted in me getting a first class instead of a mastery game. So I only got 2 kills. The extra XP for 1 extra, or certainly 2 extra kills, probably would have pushed me over. But nonetheless, that's not really relevant. What's really important is that this is a great demonstration of the strengths of this tank. You know, really utilizing its strong armor, as a decent gun, decent reload, does decent alpha damage for tier 6. And if you get into a dominant position like that, where you can really utilize the armor of the tank, you can be very effective. Now, if I was bottom tier in that game, I wouldn't have been so aggressive. You can see there's steel wall medal. You'll get steel wall and Spartan medals all day long in this tank. especially when top tier. If I wasn't top tier in that, I would have been less aggressive. I would have went and supported my heavies and taken a more supportive role. But this tank doesn't struggle as much as others when you are bottom tier. I'll have a look at another game here, and this is a mastery game in this tank. And ironically, it's the same map again. Only this time we're approaching from the other side. But I do exactly the same thing again. I'm top tier again in this game, so I know it can be aggressive, and I'm just going to push on towards A. And actually, it's almost a carbon copy of the same game, guys. I just do the same thing, push on. As I'm top tier, I'm confident. I don't even really care if anybody else is coming with me. I know I can hold my own, even against 2 or 3 enemy tanks. I can hold my own if I get into this dominant position on this map. So I just push on. You know, I am an aggressive blitzer, which sometimes leads me to lose games. But you know, I like taking the fight to the enemy. And I especially like if I have the right tank dominating positions like this. So up I go. I have our first customer here, the M25. I'm smash one into him there. And then now I'm adapting the same position, similar to what I did with the Stug. I'm using the Stug's Hulk. I'm using the bottom of the plinth here on the statue in the temple to protect me. I need to be a little bit more careful now because I'm going to have the risk of being flanked. I'm just going to push up here into this position. Luckily, I have the M25 with a small gun in front of me, and I have the Panzer G in front of me with a smaller gun too, so I can afford to push on here, be a bit more aggressive. You can see there I'm getting bounces from the M25 on my frontal armour, and also I'm not giving him much of a target. He has a strong part of my armour and my turret. It's going to be very difficult for him to pen. I'm also keeping him penned in a little bit. He pops out again for luck, and I smash him off. Now I kind of need to be a little bit careful here because I know they're around to the side of me as well. He's moving off in that direction, so pop around into him. Here's my little friend in the Panzer 4G coming around, and that was a bad idea for him. He thought I was preoccupied with the big guns in front. But luckily I spotted him in time before I could put some damage into the back of me and clear him off. Now you can see, when you're top tier, you can be aggressive in this tank. And I've gone to this position where I'm really dominating this game. And yeah, look, the Reds don't play very well, right? That's for sure. But when you are aggressive in a tank like this, especially when you're top tier, and you can adopt a very aggressive position where you are kind of dominating the game, you cause the Reds to make mistakes, to break formation, and you upset whatever plan they had in the first place. I think it was Rommel who said that no plan ever survives first contact with the enemy, and that's true. You can plan all you want in Blitz. There we go, mastery badge delivered. You can plan all you want in Blitz, but when the enemy engages you, it can upset those plans, and being aggressive sometimes and playing a heavy tank and seizing those strategic positions can make all the difference. Now this is a good heavy tank. It's perfect practice also for the higher tiers, tier 7, tier 8, tier 9 and even tier 10. It's an easy jump because the tanks are so similar to the tier 5. Watch the heavy tank guide, the heavy tank guide if you haven't already, please. Because the moral is train hard, fight easy, or train easy, fight hard. So prepare, watch the heavy tank guide. You'll be a better heavy tank player and play this tank better. Get the top gun and turret first because it's important when you have tougher armor in tier 6s and tier 7s that you have that 90mm gun. 7.4 second reload with that gun, 8 seconds if you use calibrated shells. Frontal armor, as you saw, is troll. Use it face up against the enemy. You can also side scrape. And that's a practice and skill that you need and should be practicing now as you move up through the tiers. It's especially important when you get up to tier 8, tier 9. Good alignment in this tank is excellent. Utilize that. You saw me utilizing it there. And it is a super brawler. You saw when I was up against my peer, another M6, just how good a brawler this is. Being up tiered is okay in this tank. It can hold its own, especially if you play more cautiously and support your own heavies, or with that power to weight ratio you can even go and support your meds. And some of the in-game lessons that we looked at Capping when you play supremacy, it's key to winning supremacy games. Cap early, cap often. Make sure you're aware of that. And in-game awareness, utilising things that happen during the game, like using the hulk of that smashed stug. So cheers, Mush. Thanks for watching. I hope you found it useful. I hope you found it helpful. I hope you found it enjoyable. And I guess all that remains for me to say is pants off.
you.